There's a person in your life who never drops the ball. They answer every message, meet every deadline, show up for everyone. They're the one people describe as reliable. And right now, that person is probably falling apart. Because here's something nobody warns you about. The most dependable person in the room is almost always the one closest to breaking. Burnout isn't tiredness. You can be tired and recover with a weekend. Burnout is what happens when recovery stops working. In 2019, the World Health Organization officially classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon. Not a medical condition, not a personality flaw, a phenomenon. Something that emerges from the environment around you, and they defined it across 3 dimensions. The first is exhaustion. Not the kind you feel after a long run, the kind where you wake up already drained, where sleep doesn't seem to touch the fatigue because the fatigue isn't physical, it's existential. The second is cynicism. You start to disconnect. The things you used to care about begin to feel hollow. You do the work, but you feel nothing. You show up, but you've already left. The third is reduced efficacy. This is the cruelest one. You're working just as hard, maybe harder, but the results are getting worse. You start to feel incompetent at the very things that used to define you. And so you push harder, which only deepens the exhaustion, which only feeds the cynicism, which only confirms what you're starting to believe about yourself, that you're not enough. That's burnout. It's not a wall you hit, it's a slow erosion of who you are. So why does this happen disproportionately to responsible people? Why is it that the ones who care the most tend to suffer the most? Let's start with a word that sounds like a compliment, but often functions as a cage. Dependable. When people call you dependable, what they're really saying is, I can place weight on you and you won't complain. And if you've been that person long enough, you know what happens next. The weight increases. Not because anyone is cruel, but because systems, families, workplaces, friendships, naturally route pressure toward whoever absorbs it most quietly. Responsible people tend to share a particular psychological profile. They over-identify with their usefulness. Somewhere along the way, they learn that their value is tied to what they provide, not who they are, what they do. And so, saying no doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels like a threat to their identity. If I'm not the one helping, then who am I? There's also the people-pleasing element. Many responsible people aren't driven by ambition, they're driven by anxiety. The anxiety of letting someone down, the anxiety of being seen as selfish. They say yes, not because they want to, but because the emotional cost of saying no feels unbearable. And then there's something psychologists call hyper-responsibility, the belief that if something can be done and you can do it, then it's your obligation to do it. This isn't rational, it's a deeply ingrained pattern, often rooted in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a home where you had to be the stable one. Maybe you were parentified, forced to carry adult responsibilities before you had the emotional architecture to handle them. And now, decades later, you're still carrying. Not because you have to, because your nervous system doesn't know how to stop. Here's what makes this so dangerous. Responsible people don't just attract more work, they attract more emotional labor. They become the person everyone vents to, the person who mediates conflicts, the person who remembers birthdays, the person who notices when someone else is struggling. And none of that shows up on a task list. None of it gets acknowledged. It's invisible weight. You become the load-bearing wall of every structure you belong to. And nobody checks whether the wall has cracks. Here's where it turns into a spiral. You take on too much, you start to feel the strain. But instead of stepping back, you interpret the strain as evidence that you need to try harder. So you do. You sleep less. You cancel plans. You stop doing the things that used to recharge you because there simply isn't time. And for a while, it works. You push through. People praise you for it. They say things like, "I don't know how you do it all," and you smile, because that sentence is the only thing keeping you going.
But the exhaustion deepens.
Your patience thins. You start snapping at people you love. You feel guilty about that, so you overcompensate. You do more for them, take on more of their problems. The guilt becomes fuel for more overextension, which creates more exhaustion, which creates more guilt. It's a closed loop with no exit.
And here's the part no one talks about.
When a responsible person starts to slip, when they miss a deadline, forget a commitment, show up late, they don't get the grace they've given everyone else. Because the standard they've set is perfection, and anything less than that feels like betrayal, not to others, to themselves.
So they don't ask for help.
Because asking for help means admitting they can't handle it. And if they can't handle it, then what was all of this for? Every sacrifice, every late night, every time they said yes when their body was screaming no.
The breaking point
Doesn't look like a dramatic collapse. It looks like a Tuesday. You're sitting at your desk, or in your car, or on the edge of your bed, and you realize you feel nothing. Not sadness, not frustration, nothing. The engine that drove you, the care, the conscientiousness, the deep need to be good, has simply gone quiet. And in its place is a hollow so vast you can't see the edges of it.
That's the moment.
That's where the responsible person finally meets the cost of their own reliability. So how do you stop a cycle that's woven into your identity? The first thing is the hardest. You have to redefine what responsibility means. Because right now, you probably define it as doing everything that's asked of me. But real responsibility includes yourself. You are one of the people you're responsible for. And if you keep ignoring that, you will eventually have nothing left to give anyone. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's structural. Think of it this way. A bridge with no weight limit isn't strong. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Knowing your limits and enforcing them is an act of engineering, not weakness.
Learn to delegate.
And I don't mean just tasks. Delegate emotionally. You don't have to be the one who holds everyone together. Other people are more capable than you give them credit for. Sometimes your willingness to carry everything is actually preventing the people around you from developing their own strength.
And rest.
Rest is not a reward you earn after productivity. Rest is what makes productivity possible. Every system in nature has cycles of exertion and recovery. You are not the exception. You are not built to run without stopping. No one is. The most responsible thing you can do is protect your ability to keep going. Not by grinding through the pain, but by treating yourself with the same care you so effortlessly extend to everyone else. You've spent your whole life making sure everyone else is okay. So here's a question you're not used to hearing, and you need to sit with it. Who's taking care of you?